When it comes to getting buy-in from management to increase compensation, they often look to your existing staff as evidence of your achievements before upping the budget. But how are you supposed to make sure your staff are engaged at all times? Well, today, Brenda Gilchrist and I will be talking about how to promote strong employee retention amongst existing frontline staff in order to prove that your HR department of one deserves that increase in budget. Let's get into it. Before we go into that, I want to point into this next slide talking about what leadership looks for before offering these pay raises. So some of these roadblocks, some of these opportunities in some aspects. So market value of the jobs, we kind of covered that a little bit already. Again, filling the position, performance of the staff, of existing staff, the employee's value to the company, increased responsibilities. So this kind of is more in the vein of promotions, right, for those existing staff, and growth and development opportunities. So Brenda, my question for you is here, how important is it to leadership that their existing staff is engaged prior to offering increased compensation?
Right. I mean, I think it's really hard to process a increase to an employee that may not be performing at an acceptable level. So I think that one thing is you do tie your performance evaluations to whether or not someone does receive an increase. So I think that we need to look at how much is the employee providing a skill and at the level that we need in that position to support the organization. And if you don't show that there's really an impact, a positive impact by that employee or that position, then you need to make some other decisions operationally outside of just wage increases. But sometimes what we've done is we just put a wage increase on hold. We give the employee an opportunity to come up to speed and to try to get them engaged. So sometimes engagement, it's a whole other topic or webinar probably is, if they're not engaged, there's probably reasons for that. It might be their supervisor. There might be some problems with the supervisor. There might be a problem with a fit. They may not be happy in that position. So looking at, is there something that we can do to further engage the employee as an organization? Is there something we can do to provide them some growth and development opportunities where they might be more engaged, or not? So with increases, we definitely want to reward people that are engaged and are performing at an acceptable level. And if not, then you tie that back into your corrective action and performance evaluation program.
Absolutely. How often does low compensation actually feed into turnover amongst staff, would you say?
The theory has been that most people don't leave because of pay. I think the low compensation, my theory is that you're not going to attract talent if you have low compensation, because again, that's kind of that hierarchy of needs that you need to at least pay a minimum requirement to attract them in the first place. Most people leave because they're not feeling recognized in the position. There's a misfit in the skills or responsibilities or the level that they want to work at, or they don't feel the commitment to the organization's mission or vision or values, or they just don't have a really great supervisor. They're not inspired by their supervisor. But wages are very important. If you don't have that at least baseline and you're not competing, you probably will lose them. So it's very important on the front end to make sure you have that appropriate level of pay and that you study the market and you do compete.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great point. And of course, going to their supervisors, people leave their boss, not necessarily the job, right? So that is very true across the board, whether or
Yes.
not an hourly staff or not, or hourly wage
Right.
industries or not. Could you share some examples on any successful retention programs or initiatives that have helped implement for small businesses with these limited resources?
Yeah, one fun thing that I like to take a look at is with small companies, there's often really limited ability to promote from within, right? Because there's
Yeah.
only, let's say there's only 10 people in the whole organization, or 25 or 50 even. What I like to do is look at, is there opportunities for creating some levels within the organization that it does give some people a sense that they are growing and developing and achieving a higher level. And so let's say someone starts as a technician 1, and then eventually there's certain skill sets that they gain, then maybe they move into a level 2, which warrants a next level rate of pay. So they're not bumping up against the ceiling really quickly, but they're able to still create some levels within the organization that makes sense. So sometimes we see crazy, numbers of levels that make no sense, and they're not defined about how someone gets to that next level. But it should be when you create these levels, it should be there's a need for it, number
Yeah.
one. That, look, we do need a lead, or we do need a technician 2 or 3, and you clearly define what those are, and you align some pay with that. But that's one thing, is just looking at some pay leveling. And the other thing is, I think that giving people an opportunity to do things outside of their job, to say, look, I know you're at this technician 1. I know eventually you want to be a CEO. Come with me. I'm going to invite you to a CEO forum. Just giving people a chance or an opportunity to, grow and know where do they want to go in their profession. So give them some experiences outside of their current job. I think that's another creative way of retaining and recognizing people.
I love that. We actually recently came out with this new feature called the Skills Matrix, and it's really cool in the sense where it actually helps kind of fill those necessary skills required within the workforce. So using something like that, I could totally see a manager using that skills matrix to say, hey, we need somebody who has this specific skill. Let's upskill Jim to do this role, have that be promotion material for him, have that kind of increase that engagement for Jim in this case. And yeah, and using things like that, using tools in your tool belt, using technology, whatever it might be. So I think that's such a great point. Engagement, of course, here is absolutely key. Increasing loyalty to the company is really what's going to help that turnover maintain as low as possible at the end of the day.
Right.
How important would you say employee feedback and engagement is in improving retention, and what methods do you recommend for soliciting and actually acting upon employee feedback efficiently? I know a lot of HR managers struggle with the employee feedback aspect.
Absolutely. One thing that we've done as an organization or as a firm, is we've help organizations create engagement surveys. So we do a survey, but with small companies, it gets a little bit trickier, because if there's only 10 employees, I would say you may not need to do an online full robust engagement survey. But one thing that I really encourage organizations to look at is their performance evaluation systems. Sometimes they become online. You're not talking to the employee. Those opportunities to check in with your employee throughout the year and set goals and have discussions, that's your feedback opportunities to say, Meredith, how are you doing in your position? How is this working for you? Is there anything that we could be doing differently? Here's some of the expectations I have. Does that work for you? Do you feel like you can meet those goals? Is there any obstacles or anything that I need to know about that can get in your way? Just having those really rich conversations one-on-one directly with staff, I think that's going to create the engagement. It's going to give you a sense of what do they want to do as well. How do they want to approach tasks? So it's a two-way conversation. And I think that goes a long way throughout the years, just having those ongoing dialogue conversations. So training managers on having those rich conversations, not just once a year, but throughout the year, is important, that they know how to do that, because it makes people feel that they have a say in how their work is done, how they approach their work, and how you do this together.
Truly, the beauty of working within a smaller company is having a lot of time to have those face-to-face interactions. A lot of mid-sized, large businesses don't have the capacity to go up to each individual frontline employee and say, hey, is this the trajectory that we see yourself on? How are we feeling about A, B, or C, whatever it is? So yeah, the beauty of smaller businesses, I completely agree, is being able to say, hey, like, do you have a couple minutes? I would love to just sit down, talk for 10, 15 minutes, just to kind of make sure we're on the same page. Those face-to-face interactions are huge. And yeah, it really builds the idea of loyalty to the company, saying, I see you going up to this position. What do you think about that? Like, I see you as a manager. How do you feel? Whatever, that kind of thing. So I completely agree. In today's competitive job market, we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier. How can smaller companies differentiate themselves to attract and retain frontline talent, especially, when facing challenges like limited budgets for salary increase or even benefit packages, stuff like that?
Right. One of the principles of engagement is feeling good about your organization and what they do in the community. So that's one standard in engagement principles. So,
Absolutely.
it's an organization can get involved, or a small company can get involved with their community, and they can say, we support this nonprofit or our company. Even if it's 10 employees, we're all going to volunteer one day to help build houses, or just helping to enrich the community. That really gives a great brand for the company. And any small company, they can create an employer brand. So people can say, oh, I've heard about that organization, just through some of their social media posts, through their volunteer efforts, having their employees maybe getting on boards or volunteering to be, on a position within the community. So I think that's one way of distinguishing yourself that doesn't cost hardly anything, to be able to have employees feel really great about the organization they're working for. And I think that employees are really proud of organizations that do high quality work, that really truly care about the product that they develop or that they produce. And employees, when they see that they're working for an organization that has high quality, high values, the employees feel proud to be part of that. So I think that reinforcing your values, and even if, like I said, you're a small solo HR department, you can still help the organization, the C-suite team, develop the values. What are our values as an organization? And let's present those out to the employees so everyone knows what they are and that they're proud that they are supporting those values and that they're reinforcing those values throughout the organization and within the community. How they look to the outside is really important as well.
Thank you so much for watching that segment from our webinar on how solo HR managers can get buy-in to increase wages. If you'd like to watch the full webinar, click this video here and be sure to subscribe for more content like this.